Hi, this is Matt from Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns, and you're listening to another fantastic show on the Self-Defense Radio Network.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society Podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We're recording this one on Monday, the 16th of March, 2020. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rob Morse, and on tonight's show, we'll talk with Joe Eaton of Faster Saves Lives and Buckeye Firearms.
I'm John Richardson, and we'll talk about Kung Flu and its impact.
I'm Tracy Thronberg, and what happened to all the ammo? Now we're in an ammo shortage?
I'm Gary Doherty, and in one of our DGUs, 4-on-1 is not enough for the bad guys. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 535 of the Polite Society Podcast starts right now. Okay, before we get started here, I have a special announcement. I talked to the CDC, and they assured me you cannot get the coronavirus by listening to podcasts. You all are safe. Rob, what's been up with you since the last time we talked, man?
A few minutes ago, Bill Frady and I were on his Lock and Load radio program trying to make sense of the world gone crazy. A few hours ago, I was on with Amanda Suffolk's Eye on Target Radio. I'm very proud of that. I recorded another episode of Self-Defense Gun Stories with Robin Sandoval. It was her first time on that podcast. So that's a big catch for us. I kept active, dry practiced, carried every day, and didn't get sick. John, how about you?
Well, I didn't get sick either, even though I've been in a hospital working a number of days. Sorry for missing the last show, but seasonal allergies hit. I didn't think anyone needed to hear me sniffing and honking. I've saved you from that. I spent part of Saturday cutting saplings and chopping brush on the deer hunting property. My back feels it. I'm cutting a lane to some large trees where I plan to set up a tree stand. In gun news, I bought a new-to-me revolver and .38 Special. It is a Manhurin MR88, which was used by the French police. Kind of similar to the Ruger Security 6, has some Ruger parts and some French parts. Finally, I went to court last week to get an order to have some of my stolen firearms returned. It was only 21 months ago that I had the break-in.
Wow.
Good thing I went when I did, because North Carolina courts are now closed for the next 30 days.
Wow.
Gary?
Carrying every day, except today when I had to give blood, and not giving it, but they wanted some for tests. Drive. And other than that, still working at home. And love the fact that I get to and that I was already set up for it. What's happening, Tracy?
Teaching private lessons and private classes, which I think is getting ready to come to a screeching halt. Last night, I was a guest host on the Firearms Chat podcast. Rachel Malone joined us. It was good to talk to her. TACCon has been canceled for 2020. Rolled my reservations over for next year for that. And somehow, in the past couple of days, we now are in the midst of an ammo shortage. So, basically, just another typical day in my life.
Tracy, where is TACCon 2021?
Dallas, same place.
No, same place. Okay, they didn't.
March 26th, 27th, and 28th of 2021.
Great.
Amy, what's going on?
Well, last week I took a mini vacation in Key West for Dave's birthday and came back to a global pandemic. But I actually canceled some training I was supposed to go to with the DC project because I was concerned with everything that was happening so fast, and I really just wanted to be home with Dave since he is part of the vulnerable, immune group. So I've just been staying home, making sure we're prepared, and watching the world news really just kind of unfold around. But more on that, I guess, later. Dana, what's going on with you?
Well, I've been practicing pogo on a regular basis. It's becoming a habit now. I think 15 days in a row.
Good.
Working from home now that they kicked us out of the office today, just after lunch. There was a report of somebody who had symptoms. I don't think they had tested positive yet, but they had been tested. And so they said, go home, work from home. So, and until further notice, we're working from home. So I've got to take care of one person who can't work from home's work, but that's part of life. Amanda, what you been
I'll
up?
tell you. Well, I've not only been pogoing, I really have. I started to with this whole pandemic. People are like, "What about this and what about that?" And they have scared me enough that it's like, okay, so what about my gun for the house? What about my gun for this? What about my... So I did a gun inventory and then a reallocation of them into a variety of places, we'll just say. And my Taurus Spectrum that I told you all that I was getting, it came. So check how cute this is for those of you guys who are on the video. So it is adorably cute, but I can't tell you how it shoots because I just got it yesterday. But I'm really willing to give this a try. People have been making fun of it, and I just from the dry firing, I don't think it's a making fun of style. I think that it was very, very underappreciated. So, Paul,
So
Susan,
now I'm curious.
what?
I'm curious. Is that white part part of the magazine, or is that part of the grip down at the bottom?
That is part of the magazine.
Oh, okay.
So it
Yeah.
actually gives you a pinky finger in the magazine.
Yeah. Huh.
So, and then it has another shorter magazine with it. So
Oh, okay.
A little bit of both. So you can
Alright.
have either.
See, and the problem is that every time you change outfits, you need another gun.
Hey, wait, Rob. I bought two.
All right. Yes.
Does that come with both magazines, Amanda? Did that come with both of them?
Yes.
Oh, good.
But see,
Yeah, and-
now you need magazines in matching colors too.
I've got a Cerakote friend.
She's got a friends in
Oh, you got
Cerakote
pink.
places.
Oh, that's
got a
so
pink-
cool.
Yeah, look at me. Look at me.
I am looking at you. I'm very impressed.
So I was kind of hoping you could take it apart and put it back together like Transformers, but you can't. Alas. Things you learn. So
If
Paul,
only we knew somebody that did fashion shows.
Right?
well, right now you don't know anybody who's doing fashion shows.
Oh yes, everything is.
Canceled left and right. Yes.
So we can do them so long as they're video broadcasts.
Till they stop that. So Paul, Susan, what about you guys?
Well, Susan, I'm going to let you go first.
Why?
Because it's been like 16 years, 23 months, 8 days, 52 seconds since you've been on the show.
Oh, goodness, has it been that long?
Yes.
I've been working.
We counted.
Working, training new people, working overtime. I've gotten involved with the SD project, which is an offshoot of the DC project. I'm working with some people on that. Been working on spending some time out at the South Dakota Military Heritage Alliance, which is a new gun range here that opened. Yes.
Tell them about what they're doing.
They bought an old gun range, and there used to be a gun range in a pawn shop, and they have bought the building. The American Legion, the Disabled American Veterans, and the VFW have all gone in and bought this building together. So it's basically a one-stop shop for vets. If you need to talk to any of the organizations, you can go there and talk to all of them at one time.
Does that mean there's a bar in the back?
Yes, sir. It's called Club
Yes! So after you're done shooting,
Lobo. You can go to the club. They also have a cafe there. They have reopened the range, and it is open to everyone. And since it is owned and operated for the vets mostly, all vets on Monday nights get a half-hour free range time from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m.
That sounds pretty cool.
I'm liking it. It's a new place to go. And this place is when it opened 2 years ago, Paul?
it's been a little longer than that, but yeah, it was maybe 3, 4.
Yeah, it hasn't been open very long, and then it shut down and sat empty for almost 2 years. But this place at that point in time was state of the art. Love this place.
Yeah, it's what a lot of when it was built, it was what a lot of people would call a country club. It's very
How
very
cool.
How many lanes does it have?
Standard lanes, I want to say it has
6.
Yeah, but then
Okay.
it's got 4 of the upscale lanes too.
Okay, what's the difference between a regular and an upscale?
The lighting can be changed. There's a longer range, and
Okay.
there's a waiting area that's got all the refreshments and stuff. It's really cool.
So,
Right.
2 hours ago, they announced that Wednesday night is family night, and Thursday night is ladies' night. So,
For me, I made a run out to the East Coast area and came back, did the disarmament dance, and kind of chased back because everything really started heating up as far as the coronavirus when I was coming back. And for listeners to the show, and especially Facebook viewers, I got thrown a curveball. My boss, well, first of all, the federal government declared a state of emergency, and the FMCSA, which is the government agency that controls trucking, among us, FMCSA covers almost all transportation except air, but FMCSA has suspended hours of service for people participating in the relief effort that haul medical supplies and food. And that's about half of what I do. Which means I'm going to get very, very, very busy over the next however long this lasts. What that means for the show is this. I cannot broadcast unless I'm home. I cannot edit unless I am home. And so we will be doing broadcasts with whoever can join me and whatever guests we can round up when I get a day home.
Because he can't trust us to run the show without him. After last week, he cannot trust us.
I'll agree with that.
Yes.
That's not
But
it at all.
it's a sacrifice we're making so that we have toilet paper.
Okay. I'm just saying.
No, the thing is it's not that I don't trust you guys. I was able to get a show out. That's not the deal. The deal is
But
I
it
have
wasn't
to be home
easy.
to edit it. So I have a Chromebook, but it does not have an editing suite for audio on it. So and the big computer, the one that I run gRPC broadcast with, it's not. I'm not taking that.
it's not truck friendly.
No, it's way too delicate to do anything with it.
Paul,
Yes.
do you realize we're bad parents?
How's that?
We did not tell them what we did yesterday.
Oh, well, you go ahead and tell. Make sure you tell them you officiated the event.
I officiated the event.
Okay.
Got it.
What event?
And
Our baby got married yesterday.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
Oh,
excellent! Congratulations! And you were the officiant.
Yes.
That is really cool.
It was very interesting wedding. As I introduced myself and I chucked him on the chin. I'm Susan Lathrop and I'm Michael's mother.
That's really neat.
We are about 5 minutes late for getting to our guests, so we do need to run the break.
Let's do that.
Yes.
Sorry about
Before
that.
we do that, though, I do have to ask everybody, please go visit the Self-Defense Radio Network. Those of you who are watching live right now or watching on YouTube later or the Facebook later, you can see the webpage for Self-Defense Radio Network right now. There's all kinds of great shows and more to come very soon. I promise. I know I've been teasing it, but we really are working on getting these new shows in. But you can see, well, there's this Eye on the Target radio by somebody named Amanda Suffolcool. And up here, there's a self-defense gun stories, and some guy named Rob Morris runs that. But we've also got Firearms Chat, Mind for Survival, Unload Show Clear. We got a lot of great shows on the network. You can listen right off the network website, or you can find subscription information for all the shows right there at sdrn.us. We're going to step aside to break now. When we come back, we're going to have our guest, and we'll get to that right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership, and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Masad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Givens, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by Network President Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
Hey, and welcome back to the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Joining us tonight is Joe Eaton. Joe is I think I've got this right. You're the program director of FASTER. Is that correct, Joe?
Oh, that's close enough. We all volunteers, so it really doesn't matter what we do.
Okay. Well, the reason we wanted to bring you on tonight, and it's becoming spring, and that is, of course, as spring hits, it is time for training season to ramp up, and I really am impressed with what you folks do. You basically train teachers, in your particular case, in Ohio, and areas around Ohio. I don't think it's exclusively Ohio teachers that come there, but you train teachers to defend students in the classroom. If I could have just, we've had people from FASTER on before, but it's been a while. Could I have you start off, Joe, by describing what you do and what the FASTER program does?
Yeah, sure. The FASTER Save Lives programs ran by the Buckeye Firearms Foundation, and we started shortly after the murders at Sandy Hook. And what we basically do is any school that has decided to have firearms as part of their safety plan, whether it's armed school resource officers or other armed staff in the building, we want them to have access to the absolute best training that we know how to provide to them. And that period of time, we'll be starting our 8th year. We've already trained well over 3,000 school staff from 260 different school districts, and that's across 18 states. Of course, the vast majority is here in Ohio, but we've had staff travel from Washington State, from Idaho. We started doing classes in Colorado. We started doing them 2 years ago in Indiana. Tried to stand one up in Utah last year. So we're going wherever there is demand. One thing's for certain, if there's going to be guns in the schools, they can't be in the hands of criminals or untrained people, so we're helping schools get the training they need.
Very cool. So the training teachers is not free. It's not cheap. This has to be paid for in some way. Do the schools pay for this? Do the teachers themselves pay for it? Are their costs covered in other ways?
it's like everything else. It's a yes, no, and a maybe. When we initially started this, yeah, we knew how cash-strapped schools are. And, we'd have superintendents that would say, I've got to decide whether security is a priority this year or an English teacher is a priority this year. And that's a terrible decision for any school administrator to make. So we started off covering all of the costs, but the demand is just so overwhelming for this. In the first 5 years of the program, our foundation had spent just over $1 million to provide this training to schools across the United States, and it just wasn't sustainable like that. We're fairly fortunate here in Ohio. Starting 3 years ago, the state of Ohio has earmarked some limited funding for schools here in Ohio to obtain the training. We also are offering limited grants to schools now because we want them to understand what it is we're truly offering. This is not your guy down the street doing a concealed carry class at their kitchen table. This is when we tell schools that we'll give them the absolute best training that's available in this country. That's what we strive to do. So for this year, what we're offering to any school district who chooses to attend for the first time is a grant of up to $5,000, which basically trains 5 of their staff at no cost. That's the 3.5 days of firearms, general crisis emergency medical training, and most importantly, the trauma medical training. Provides their hotel rooms while they're there, provides them a professional trauma kit that they can take back to their districts, and that way it helps them jumpstart the program. And for returning schools, we're able to offer some grants also, which helps schools continue to train more staff and have a safe and effective program.
So if in Ohio, because most of these teachers you've trained have been from Ohio, is it required, for instance, in South Dakota, they have to have permission from the superintendent of schools in the district they're in? Is that a requirement for them to carry in the classroom in Ohio?
Yeah, in Ohio, of course, they have to have their concealed handgun license to meet federal law, but then Ohio law simply says that the school board can authorize anyone they choose to. So in theory, they would need no more training, but schools realize that, the precious environment that they're in, they have got to have the absolute best training and the most equipped staff that they can have in there. And again, this is only for one very unique circumstance that we are training them for. If they never have an extreme violent event in their school, this training does not come into play. And there are lots of other things that we encourage the schools to do ahead of time, such as hardening the entrances, single sign out, monitoring social media, training the staff for changes in behavior and personalities. And that's how we stop the majority of these mass violence events. But still, schools have to look. What happens if I have something like Sandy Hook, where the threat comes from outside the school and I don't know about it until they shoot out the front door and walk through and start murdering my staff and students? What can we do at that point in time? So that's where they're looking at. They're deciding that even waiting 2 or 3 minutes for the best case for outside response, which is the exact timeline we saw at Sandy Hook Elementary School, and that ended up with 20 dead babies and 6 adults that day, and that's not acceptable to schools anymore.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to my staff at this point. Anybody have a question they want to ask?
Well, I have a question for Joe. Joe, your teachers, for the most part, become anonymous when they come back to the community. You talk about faster to the broader community. Do the school staff, the superintendents, maybe the principals, I'll call them the executives that made this decision, did they get together and talk with other school executives and say and describe what their experience has been? Do they do part of the conversion to spread faster?
That's really what we've seen. When we first started this, we would get a few schools here and there that would send out a couple of people, and then after a couple of years, enough of the superintendents out there were talking to their peers in the other local districts. And similar to this coronavirus, you would see it start in one area and then it would branch out this way to the districts, and then it would go out this way. And now in the last few years, schools have already done their research. They've realized that this is a viable and an effective solution if they truly want to limit the amount of dead and injured, because nothing is a 100% solution. You're never going to get ahead of all of these. You just simply have to be able to respond. And the way that you save lives in any of these events is, first, you got to stop the killing. And then secondly, you've got to stop the dying by having the tools and the trauma training inside the schools, so you can start saving lives while you're waiting on the outside help to arrive. And schools realize that. There's no other emergency that schools say, I'm going to wait on outside help. When I talk to districts, I ask them, if you've got a kid that falls in a swimming pool, are you going to dial 911 and stand there at the side of the pool waiting for the ambulance to arrive? And that's a ridiculous outcome. No, they're going to jump in the pool. They're going to pull the kid out. Every staff member is trained in CPR. And then when the paramedics show up, you actually have a patient to transfer to them instead of a victim. And shortening that timeline is the key to all of this. That's how we save lives, because every minute you allow the violence to continue in a school or anywhere else, you're going to see 3 to 5 additional dead or injured. So as our motto says, time is all that matters. You've got to shorten that timeline to stop the killing, and then start saving lives by starting the medical procedures as soon as possible.
Joe, you used the analogy of a virus. Does that mean you're seeing larger and larger applications for your training every year?
Oh, certainly. Over the past 3 years, we have schools that when they hit the ground running with this, they're not sending out 1 or 2 people to get their feet wet. They're sending out 10, 12. We had one school that wanted us to do 32 of their staff members at one time. And that was back when we were funding it all. And I said, that's 20% of my budget. I can't put that into one single district. But we're seeing that now. School districts are sending out half a dozen to dozen people. We've got one school district in Ohio, which for the past 4 years has sent at least 10 people to our level 1 or level 2 training classes. And, they are running the most safest and effective programs they absolutely can. This year I was just contacted by a teacher who is also on the Board of Education in Oklahoma. We've trained staff from Oklahoma, and this administrator told me, he said, I met the requirements of the state, which is our security guard training, and she's like, it was ridiculous. I do not feel safe carrying in my school with the limited amount of training that the state requires. So they are actually going to load more of their staff on a school van and travel across the country here to Ohio this year to attend the training. And it's humbling when you see staff with that type of dedication to their students and the safety of their schools.
Amy, you had a question.
Yes, Joe, first I want to say thank you for providing this because it's so needed. But the question I had for you, I think you kind of touched up on it in your last answer there. But my question I'm curious about is if the school staff that have reached out to you, and I don't know if if this has been the last 8 years that you've had the program, but are they on average first-time gun handlers, or are the staff already familiar with firearms training and with firearms? And also, do you require a lower level training before attending your training?
Oh man, that's fantastic questions. I couldn't have fed them to you any better. When we started this, of course, the schools were picking their former military or their longtime hunters and shooters and sending those out. Over probably the past, 4 to 5 years is where we really started reaching critical mass. The last couple of years, easily 50% of the staff that come out to our training had never touched a firearm before until they decided to volunteer for their school's program. And that really says a lot about the love and dedication they have for their staff, or their kids, that this staff is willing to step outside of their comfort zone that far. Of course, they're all required to have a concealed handgun license before they attend, but we have found a huge benefit in running them through what we call a faster foundations class, because there's such a variety of concealed carry instructors out there that in many classes they've never drawn from a holster, they've never shot single-handed, they've never shot off-handed, they've never shot while moving, and just some basic core skills that if we can run them through our one-day foundations class, then when they get to our first level 1, which is a 3.5-day class, the instructors can take them so much further at that point. And It used to be optional. The past 2 years, we have made it a requirement because it came to the point where we would start in the first 20 minutes of class and you could walk the firing line and pick out the people. They went to the foundations. They went. That person didn't. And in fact, it was 2 years ago we had I think he was a principal in our class that he self-selected himself out because he said, I made a mistake and didn't attend your foundations class, and I can see I'm already so far behind everybody else, I don't want to drag down the class. Let me go catch up and come back again. So that is really neat that you're seeing this. And again, from the gun rights and advocacy side, we are now reaching into the most anti-gun liberal bastion that is still out there, and we are changing hearts and minds, and that is key to our industry going forward.
Joe, I'm going to jump in. We've got a question coming in on social media. Let me bring this up here, and I'll bring it up on screen over here. It's only partially there on the screen, but Matthew says, off topic, but is Buckeye Firearms going to work with the state attorney general about all the county sheriffs shutting down CHL renewals until further notice? There's a 30-day grace period for those that have them, but after that, sheriff's offices are saying to open carry. They hope it isn't longer than a few weeks, but you never know. Maybe they can extend people's permits or allow mail-in renewals and limited new applications at a site if that that isn't as small as where they do it now. I wasn't aware there was an issue. I'm assuming this is a coronavirus type situation where they're shutting these down, or is there something else going on there?
No, it seems to be related to all the shutdowns for the virus. We just started getting reports about that. Actually, this morning is when I first saw the reports of this coming in. So we've got a lot more investigation to do. In Ohio, if your license is expired, you do have a 30-day grace period, and of course open carry is legal in Ohio. The trouble is people who are just getting their training and need their license for the first time. And Ohio also has a temporary emergency license for people who have an immediate need for self-protection, that they can go get the temporary emergency license even before doing the training, and that is valid for a 90-day period of time. So it's something we're going to work at. We had to initially sue 2 of the sheriffs in the state of Ohio when we enacted concealed carry back 15, 16 years ago. So we do have a good relationship with the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association, so we're trying to get some more information on exactly what the cause of this is. I'm sure that they're saying that they're limiting the sheriff's office to all non-essential personnel, and unfortunately, concealed carry licenses in their mind is probably a non-essential duty, but that's something we will argue hard for the citizens here in Ohio. Options they do have is they don't have to go in the county where they originally got their license. They can go to any adjoining county. So I would recommend calling around, because the first ones that we heard about were in East Central Ohio, and so I myself, I don't even know how widespread this is yet. I just got a report of 2 counties first thing this morning, and truthfully, I handed that off to the political wonks at Buckeye Firearms Association, and they're working it hard now.
Yeah, Paul, let me address that a little bit too. I think that, one, we're seeing it in Ohio, but we're also seeing it in some of the other states, and it is exactly that, where they're just saying we want to limit the number of people that are coming into the sheriff's departments. And so as Joe said, you're allowed to, at least in the state of Ohio, you're allowed to go to your county or any adjacent or surrounding county to make that application. So if you're someone in Ohio, call around and look at who's touching, look at the counties that are touching, and see who is making it available and who's not. And
for people in Ohio, and this is totally off the cuff and maybe inappropriate, but you could always elect people that will give you constitutional carry, and then you don't need the stinking permit.
I'm telling you, they're talking about constitutional carry. It gets close, and then we get the governor's 17 points of lightheadedness, or whatever you want to call that. Sorry, slightly derogatory, but there's my world. So let's get Joe back on topic. Joe, here's a question I've got for you, because not only do we talk about people who grab a gun and run to save lives, but you mentioned about the fact that the first responders on the medical side. So what happens if there's a teacher who says, I just will not handle a gun, yet I will do anything to protect my children? Can they take just the medical part of it?
Exactly, and we see a lot of staff with that because they simply don't want any part of having a firearm in the school, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if they're going to be there on event day, let's get them the medical training that they need. And so we've started offering it's about a 3-hour portion of our class that we go into the schools themselves, and we'll conduct the training for the schools. And that is really empowering because it does two things. First thing is they changes their mindset. They're no longer helpless. They don't have to wait on somebody else. They realize they can make a difference and save lives, and that's one critical goal. The other part of it is they start realizing that until the violence is stopped, the medical care is not doing any good. We did a breakout at the Buckeye Association of Superintendents several years ago, and we did an hour breakout session, showed them how to do tourniquets, how to apply some chest seals in a quick format, and then we let them do some simulated wounds right at the end of the class. And it was interesting because there was about a dozen in the breakout session. And of course, they're going around high-fiving each other. You know, they've got this together, and everybody was happy. And then our foundation president, Jim Irvine, stepped up front and said, okay, now we've got to go to the next room because nobody stopped the killing yet. And you could just watch the air go out of everybody in that room when they realized that this neat new skill they had was not doing any good if they did not have a way of immediately stopping the violence. So that's a key part of it, and it really helps broaden the impact of our program. And in 2019 alone, we had 3 uses of our medical training by school staff. Only one of them was in a school, but the 2 of them outside the school were both life-threatening events that by having the training and having the tools immediately available, they were able to save 2 lives just in last year alone. And that's really brings it home to everybody out there exactly how important this is.
Very cool. Well, we are coming up on break. Could I have you hang out for one more segment with us?
Oh, yes, I will.
All right. Hang on, folks. We'll have more with Joe Eaton right after this. This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by The Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant is designed for a broad base of citizens that range from students that don't own a gun on up to advanced students that train often. The Complete Combatant offers several different courses that build upon each other, from avoidance, using verbal commands, and preparing for contact, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, your 911 call, interacting with the police, to even dealing with the legal system in the aftermath. The Complete Combatant courses are a layered approach for all levels of experience that will walk you through all the many stages of decisions while developing a game plan tailored to your skills and your everyday carry. Please visit www.thecompletecombatant.com and make sure you mention this ad to receive 15% off. Again, that's www.thecompletecombatant.com and mention the ad for 15% off. Okay, and we are back. This is the Polite Society podcast powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We're continuing to talk with Joe Eaton of Faster Save Lives. And Joe, as I mentioned at the very beginning, that we are coming into spring and training season is starting soon. And as we've already talked about, the coronavirus thing is staring us in the face and limiting a lot of what we can do. Do you have any training scheduled yet?
Yes, we have our first Faster class scheduled on April the 5th. We've already had to cancel our annual Buckeye Bash, which is our annual fundraiser every year, because we put 400 people in a room there. We just had to cancel our shooting event at TDI, which was scheduled for the 28th, because the governor cut the number from 100 down to 50, and we were just under that 100 limit before. Stays at the current limit. We should be in good shape because our foundations classes They generally max out at about 18 to 20 participants. Then will be the first week in June where we are running our first level 1 classes, and those with the volunteers were probably still under that 50 mark. So again, anything is subject to change. It was 100 as of the end of last week. It's down to 50 this week. So we're hoping that we can continue on our schedule. The other thing we don't know is with all of the schools in Ohio closed, will they have to make these days up and possibly run longer into June? But we've got the dates locked out. We've got the staff locked in, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure the school staff gets the training that they want.
Okay, anybody else got a question that's ready to fire off?
Yeah, I do. Are any of the larger school districts in Ohio or elsewhere adopting armed staff members other than using sworn law enforcement officers?
We have not broke into any of the large cities at this point in time. There are some very large private schools which have adopted the training, but the majority, of course, and it's a false mindset, is that the rural and suburban districts look at their response time. But as I said, the response time at Sandy Hook is the best that we'll ever get waiting on outside help. They had 3 officers in the parking lot within 3 minutes and 16 seconds, and that was not good enough. But we're slowly seeing this. I've talked to actually the Dayton schools. I attended a Moms Demand Attention school safety briefing a few weeks ago, but I did get to speak to the head of security of the Dayton Public Schools. They do have armed SROs in every building, and so I offered them up the training. If they've got SROs in the building, we want them to have access to the training also. And in fact, we're seeing that. We have had several SROs that have told their school board, if you drop the armed staff in this, I will not continue to be an SRO, because while I'm willing to give up my life for these kids, I'm not willing to give up my life just to be another victim. And seeing those communities come together, we've got several communities that train locally with their local sheriff's office. 1 month they'll be out on the range at the sheriff's range. The next month the sheriffs are in the schools training. And seeing those communities come together like that is truly, I mean, what else could we ask for from our sheriff's department other than working directly with our schools? So we're hopeful we can pull this off again. We've already got at least 7 classes, our 3-day classes on the schedule, and we've got 6 of our foundations classes. So we're doing everything that we can to pull it off.
Very good. Is it limited? Are you finding certain areas in Ohio, let's say southern Ohio or eastern Ohio versus northern or northeastern Ohio, are taking advantage of it more?
It is really all over. At the last check, and that was at the end of 2018 season, we had trained staff in 79 of Ohio's 88 counties. I've not ran the numbers. We may have picked up one more county through the 2019 year, but it is very, very broad spread out, because again, the staff, the school districts look at the people, and that's the one thing I can say with 100% certainty, and it's true in every school out there. Right now in every school building in these United States, there's at least one person who, if tomorrow morning somebody comes in with a rifle and starts murdering the students and staff, they're going to run to the sound of that gunfire. They're going to willingly stand between a murderer with a rifle and these kids, and they're going to do it tomorrow whether or not the schools give them permission, give them training. That is just the type of people that are in our schools. And so that's what the schools do. They identify those people. Then they just ask them simply, what are you comfortable with? Some of them will say, I want nothing to do with anything. Some of them will say, I want the medical training. Other ones will say, I want every opportunity to go home to my family at the end of the night, just like every other night. And so those are the ones that they work with. They get the training, and, they keep the oversight going. And that's the hardest part for me, is I don't have a big stick that I can beat the schools with to make them realize this is not a one-and-done proposition. While we offer 3 years of training for them, there's nothing I can do to force them to go out and practice on a monthly or quarterly basis, to go out and do additional training, to do drills. But, the school staff, the large majority of them get how important this undertaking is, and that's what makes a safe program. local control is key no matter where you're at. They know their communities, their schools, their staff better than anybody else, and that's where the decision making has to happen.
Well, that says that if enough people ask for it, it'll happen.
It is, and that was a concern I had at the beginning, is I thought this was going to have to be a bottom-up approach with the parents and the staff demanding this from the administrators. But truly, it is flopped over the other way, and even initially we saw it about half and half between teachers and parents pushing for it and administrators pushing for it. And now recently, it is simply all the administrators having the meetings, doing their research, making the decisions, writing the policy, and when they pick up the phone and call me, the decision is made. Most of them have already authorized. They just want to get the staff trained so they can get it implemented as quickly as possible.
Joe, have you seen churches adopt FASTER? I mean, FASTER was created after Sandy Hook, an attack on a school. Churches aren't immune.
Yes. Yeah, we started the first couple of years while we were getting our feet under us, we limited it strictly to K through 12 schools. Then, of course, we started having more and more churches and ask for it. Ohio changed their law where universities can now allow concealed carry by their staff, so we've seen demand from universities. What we've asked in the past is that, yes, is those outside of the K through 12 to cover the cost of the training for our foundation so we can focus our resources on the K through 12. But we're fortunate this year in Ohio, if any church is wanting to take the training, we will give them a grant for one free person as long as they send at least 2 people. So that way it allows them to get a couple of people trained at very little cost to themselves, and more importantly, see how effective and how important. And Rob, I think you can speak from experience that the training goes directly to the heart of the problem that we're asking these staff to solve.
Exactly. Yeah. I know that I'll use the word cloned. Advocates have taken FASTER to Colorado and to Utah. Are there any new states? You mentioned Oklahoma. Are there any new states that you think will adopt it and develop their own training cadre in those other states?
Well, what we're doing now is we're going where the demand is, and there seems to be that breakover point, especially with our foundation being able to offer grants for new schools. If a school has 5 or 6 people, it's probably more economical for them to send them out here and us cover their training costs. Once you get to that 10 to 12 people and there's demand, our instructors who we use, Mr. John Benner at the Tactical Defense Institute and Chris and Michelle Serino with the Serino Training Group are the instructors that do the majority of ours. And they've already told us, we will do as many out-of-state classes as we can fit in the schedule, no matter what else we have to cancel. You find the demand, we will go do the training. But we know eventually we're going to have to stand up other ones if the demand continues like it has here in Ohio. But that's just the next step. We've got a lot of bandwidth that we can fill in the short term in any state that has the demand and the funding to make this happen.
We've only got a couple minutes left. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to try and wrap up. We have inadvertently seen the Second Amendment sanctuary movement spread across the country. There are now 1,000 counties, cities, towns who have called themselves Second Amendment sanctuaries. That's something nobody predicted, just like a virus. I wonder if that will help carry FASTER into other states.
I think so. The Second Amendment sanctuaries, good old-fashioned civil disobedience.
I think of it as ordinary citizens speaking up.
Yep. The truth of the matter from the FASTER side is it becomes, unfortunately, important to schools when we have kids die. And the fortunate thing is that we have had a period of time where we have not had a catastrophic event. And, unfortunately, people then, as I said, they start looking back. Well, I've got to bring in another English teacher. And, that is our hope, is that, people continue these discussions and realize that no matter what we do, we live in a violent society. Schools have to be prepared.
So, and we are coming up on break again. If somebody's interested, if they're a teacher or they work in a K through 12 or a church, but if somebody's interested in getting the training, how can they get started?
They can go right to the fastersaveslives.org website. There's a contact form on there. If they want to shoot me an email, I'll give them a call back. We'll give them all the information. The list of all the classes that we have scheduled are on the website at the bottom of the page. They can register for any of the classes right there, and we'd be happy to do whatever we can to facilitate this training for whatever school or church is out there.
Very cool. We do have to run to break. Joe, thanks for joining us tonight, man. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Happy to be here.
All right, folks, we are going to step aside to break. When we come back, we've got our news segment, and we've got to talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room, that virus that's spreading around. We'll get to that right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by Concealment Solutions. Jason Christensen makes the most comfortable inside the waistband holster on the market, bar none. The Black Mamba. Some of the other products offered are the Sidewinder outside the waistband holster and Python gun belts. Every product that Concealment Solutions makes has unsurpassed craftsmanship that shows in the fit and finish of the product. Visit concealmentsolutions.com to view all of the products available, and you can get 10% off your order when you enter the promo code POLITICS in the promo code box at checkout. That's concealmentsolutions.com.
Welcome back to the news segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. This is our news segment, and before we get into talking about and my staff, I'm kind of dropping this on you, everybody, but Susan this is going to be a surprise. Before we get into the news, Susan wanted to talk about an incident that happened with, not at her work, but with corporate.
Thanks, honey. The Polite Society podcast would like to offer our condolences to the Springfield, Missouri area. At 11:43 last night, a car was run into a come and go. The first two responding officers, one was shot and killed. The other is injured and in the hospital. When other police officers arrived, they did enter the building and found 3 deceased people. One of them was a come and go employee. The other 2 were customers. They also found 1 critically injured customer and the gunman who was dead by a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Our deepest condolences to the Springfield, Missouri area.
Amen.
I'm sorry.
All right, let's...
On to the news.
Yes, let's go ahead and we've got...
Which is not much better, but...
We've got one news story this week. Guess what it is?
Boy, is it a doozy.
Well, this won't take long. That was my Cat Heil imitation. Did you like it?
Y'all kick your feet up and just hang on and relax, okay? Coronavirus, COVID-19, CV-19, Kung Flu, Wuhan virus, whichever name you want to call it, it has shaken the United States to its very core. Suddenly, everyone has become a prepper, at least a little bit. With the spread of the virus across the nation, many commodities have become scarce. The one that has many of us confused is the run on toilet paper. Also missing from store shelves are commodities like Clorox wipes, rubbing alcohol, tissues, and hand sanitizer. Suppliers have rationed the amount of disinfectant cleaning solutions their customers can buy. Also missing from store shelves are meat and canned vegetables. Retailers are restocking shelves as soon as they can. President Trump declared a national emergency. By doing so, he can now activate the Federal Emergency Management Agency to manage the national response. This also allows him to quickly transfer money to states and cities. The House passed a funding bill to appropriate funds to fight this virus. Also included are nutritional waivers, emergency family and medical leave expansion, emergency unemployment insurance, required paid sick leave, coverage for testing, tax credits for emergency paid sick, and FMLA, etc. The representative for New York's 14th District felt it necessary to criticize the bill for not including universal basic income and Medicare for all, and more. Let no crisis go to waste, right? Governors from nearly every state have also declared emergencies. This includes activating command centers and also asking that groups of 250 or more are temporarily banned. This includes sporting events and church services. Many states have closed public schools until sometime in April. Many universities have switched their on-campus lectures to online. They have also asked dorm residents to leave campus. Some cities, such as Champaign, Illinois, New Orleans, and Albuquerque, have ordinances in place to allow mayors to declare emergencies in their cities. This gives those mayors the power to stop the sales of many things, such as gasoline, alcohol, and, unfortunately, even the sales of firearms and ammunition. It can also order the closing of bars, restaurants, daycares, and other places where people gather. The Millbury, Massachusetts Police Department announced on Facebook they were suspending the processing of license to carry applications until further notice. Also canceled are the National Rifle Association annual meeting in Nashville, the USCCA Concealed Carry Expo, and Rangemasters Tactical Conference. Several states have postponed their primaries in wake of the virus outbreak. The Federal Reserve has slashed interest rates to zero to try to counteract the economic effects of the virus. The NBA and NHL have put their seasons on hold for a time. This was after first considering playing in front of empty stadiums. Major League Baseball canceled all remaining preseason games and has delayed the start of the season for 2 weeks. NASCAR attempted to keep life as usual, but later backed off and postponed its Atlanta and Miami races until later this year. Owners such as Mark Cuban, Dan Gilbert, and Chris Ilitch, and players from the NBA, NHL, and MLB have stated they will either donate hundreds of thousands of their own money or they will cover stadium and arena employees while out of work due to the season stoppages. The Reds' Trevor Bauer gathered a bunch of his friends from various Cactus League teams to do what we all used to do. They held a pickup doubleheader for charity to help fund the stadium workers. The NCAA has canceled all remaining athletic contests for the remainder of the academic year. This includes championships such as March Madness. Retailers such as Walmart, Apple stores, Nike, and Kroger, among others, have cut hours or closed their stores altogether. Employers such as Ford, Fiat, Chrysler, and Rocket Mortgage have asked workers who are able to work from home to please do so. Many companies are providing computers so they can. Hopefully this ends up not being as disastrous as is being projected by some. Cooler heads need to prevail. Just like emergency bank accounts, I think those who have socked away supplies and non-perishable food are ready to ride this out. By the way, even ISIS has told their terrorists to work from home and to avoid Europe.
Okay, who wants to jump in first?
Well, I'm going to say I'm very happy that most of my clients are healthcare workers. They have kept a cool head throughout this and are not freaking out. That said, my company has opened up WebEx and FaceTime for us to use. We're having seminars on doing as much stuff online and working remotely. So, I mean, we've been prepared for this, but, I mean, we've been getting, I work for an international company. So, yes, we've been getting updates all the time about Macau, Hong Kong, China, Italy, South Korea, constantly, and being told to work from home and self-quarantine. Dana?
Well, a third bill is being considered that would benefit the travel industry. My wife interviewed for an airline position with the airlines at Detroit Metro last Friday and was told that they didn't know when they could bring anyone on because they've frozen the hiring. It also appears that the bill that was passed over the weekend by the House has some corrections that need to be made, so they're holding it up, even sending it to the Senate till those corrections are done. So John?
Yeah, I was on a conference call this afternoon. It was from one of the major Wall Street firms discussing all this. And they made special mention of the travel and hospitality industry. They talked about airlines, cruise ships, sports, travel, restaurants, and bars. And they're saying they will be the hardest hit by that. More importantly, the economists noted that many in this industry are among the lower paid. They comprise about 20% of the nation's workforce and are least able to be out of work. And they fully expected unemployment to rise in March and April as a result. Rob?
I think we're seeing a lot of government officials put their concerns ahead of ours. Nobody wants to be the mayor in a town where the hospitals start to triage patients. If they overreact, they probably won't get fired. Unfortunately, a lot of us will pay for it by being out of work. What I wonder is, though, can government officials like police chiefs cancel a constitutional right? To me, that seems like declaring an emergency. And in an emergency, you should be able to carry. Amy, what are you thinking?
Well, that's exactly what I was wondering about, Rob. I'm also concerned about future domestic travel shutdowns, mandatory curfews. We are already seeing that happen in individual states. And speaking of individual state rights, I'm wondering if the president's leaving that up to individual state governors to determine that, because I don't know if you all watched the press conference that he was speaking this afternoon, and I think a lot of reporters were asking him that question, and he just kept deferring them to the state governors, local governors. So I'm just curious, really curious to see what happens and what unfolds in this next week, because I think we might see more stuff, get passed this week.
Be interesting.
Amy, I saw part of that, and I think one of the things he was pointing out, with federalism, the states they can act on their own. He says, basically, he was saying, don't wait for the federal government to come in, especially if you need equipment for testing or whatever. If you can get it, do it. We can worry about the funding of it later, but step up. Don't wait. You don't have to wait for the federal government to do it. Amanda?
Well, and I agree with all of that. And we're in for a battle of states' rights here. Watch this, the federal government versus the state government, because there's so many people who are not fans of the president saying, well, the federal government wouldn't do something, when it isn't that they wouldn't, it's potentially that they couldn't, because where does states' rights fall in? But then let's talk about gun sales, because everybody is now concerned or scared, and there has been this huge run on guns again. So people who we know who own gun shops or work in gun stores say that there's a huge run on guns and on ammo. And the best line I heard was, hey, help a buddy out. If you've got guns that are your guns, but that you don't necessarily like them, or they're not the gun that you pull out when you want it, bring it in, put it on consignment, help another free American have a gun at the ready. And then did you guys hear about Ohio's election? The governor went on TV today at 2 o'clock to say that tomorrow's election was postponed. So he announces this, but he doesn't have the right to do it. Oops. So then he has to then file a lawsuit to be able to postpone it, and then the judge said no. So now the news has announced that it's delayed, and yet the judge says no, it's not delayed, and so now everybody's scrambling saying, people, vote. It's I can't say the words. That I would have used a couple words that start with S's, but I'm just saying.
Wasn't there another state that they were trying to do the same thing with the elections?
Louisiana?
That's what I thought.
A couple states did delay their election. Ohio just announced they did, but they're not really gonna.
Wow.
Does the term snafu come in there?
Yeah, that would have been. I was going to use the word. It starts with an S, and then the second word is a show.
Right? Show, right? Well,
it's a show. Yeah.
We've seen, and I like your idea. Those unneeded guns in my closet can go to a needier family.
I think it's funny.
But it's crazy. A lot of people who didn't think of themselves as being part of the gun culture, and suddenly they went, wait a minute, if a policeman is busy, that means I have to take care of my family until they sort out all the other things they're doing, if they can. So great. We have all these people who are inadvertent and unexpected members of the gun culture. They need a hand because they are lost. If you know somebody that just went and bought a virus gun, invite them shooting, please.
Except that my...
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Aim. Tracy.
Tracy.
Uh-huh.
You were saying except that...
The range that I work at in Cedar Park is indoors, and we are supposed to be having gatherings of 10 people or less.
Oh, shit.
And
I'm sorry.
yeah.
There's that word again.
That's not going to happen. As I was sitting here listening to y'all discuss, I emailed my client and canceled his private lesson with me for Wednesday night and said, when all of this blows over, we will reschedule. But
I was watching Fox News earlier today, and
I'm sorry.
Well, it beats
better than CNN.
Yeah.
Right.
Trump seems to think it could be July or August before this all settles out and we all can go back to normal lives.
It's just really unfortunate. There's so many people and businesses in need right now, and I'm worried this is going to devastate our economy. This is creating pretty much like it's a domino effect with every single thing: industries, business, people, health concerns. Every industry you can think of, because now it's affecting retail. It's affecting, I'm wondering.
Well, recession was used lots of times this afternoon in the president's speech. So.
Yeah. Well, and a general aspect, and dealing with it personally, because we've got John Correa coming up with active self-protection.
We hope.
Yeah, that's scheduled the end of May, and I hope we can't do a class for 10 people and make it profitable. Yeah, and actually, because I'm there, John's there, and Neil and Steph would be there, that'd be 6 people. That cannot be profitable, so we would have to cancel. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are going to have to cancel training because of the 10-person limit.
Well, I'm supposed to go to Mississippi at the end of May for range master level instructor.
Right.
And it was a realization that I had this afternoon of blank, that S word that we can't say.
Shoot.
That class might get postponed. And I was going to go to work yesterday at the range before we opened and work on casino drills, knowing that I was going to have to shoot lots of them for master instructor. And something in my brain just said, Trace, today's not a good day to go spend, burn through a whole lot of ammunition. Little did I know that, I've got plenty at home, but not plenty at home to go practice a couple of 1,000 rounds before a master level class. So,
John, I think you had a comment you wanted to make.
Yeah, I need to respond. Well, 2 things. Number one, from the conference call this afternoon, the economists were predicting about a 5 to 10% drop in the gross domestic product in the second quarter, should be flat in the third quarter of the year. Unemployment will be up. But I think we really need to make a strong distinction between things that are event-driven, like this, or like 9/11, and stuff that was structural, like the mortgage crisis of 2008, 2009, and the tech bubble that happened in the year 2000 when it burst. We come back much quicker, much easier from event-driven drops in the both stock and bond market as well as the economy than we do from structural stuff.
Well, that's good.
So, John,
and
go ahead.
And I'm going to say, I'm talk to healthcare workers on a daily basis. Given this is primarily a respiratory disease, I think once we have an extended period of decent weather, I think it'll be. I mean, I'm not a healthcare worker. I think you're going to see the numbers drop, and I think once the numbers start dropping of new patients, we will be back. You'll see less uncertainty, and we will be able to move back more economic. You'll have less restrictions once the numbers start to drop. Once they don't keep increasing, like, oh, we had 10 last week, now we have 55. Stuff. Once it stops being exponential and then flat lines, you'll see a big change.
I want to ask
John, how fast was the recovery after 9/11?
I think
you
from peak
remember?
to trough was about 9 months.
Okay, thank you. Dana, I'm sorry, you were up.
Well, give me just a second, because I want to talk to John here. John, you are, of everybody I know, you are the most financially smart. What do you think the effect? There will be an effect of the Fed dropping interest rates to almost zero. Is that going to? And then they
already have.
Yeah, and they're going to be buying $700 billion worth of bonds. Is that going to do any good, or is that spitting in the wind?
Yes. I mean, it could do good, and it is partially spitting in the wind because they have they can't drop it anymore. And part of what happened in the markets today was you saw Wall Street saying, okay, the Fed is scared. What the hell are we going to do? They have no more tools. They can't drop it any below. You can't go below zero.
Right.
But they made the good point that monetary stimulus is not usually what will get us out of it. Be more of a fiscal stimulus. A fiscal being coming from spending through Congress, not lowering interest rates. I mean, it's not going to hurt. It will help limit the damage. But the economists were saying that it's going to come too late to stop a recession. We're going to have a slight recession. I mean, part of me just feels like the people who are really overreacting are the media, politicians, and the stock market. And it's kind of like an October surprise, but it just came a little too early for the Democrats.
All right, Dana, you're up next, man.
Yeah, being here in the Motor City, we've been seeing several instances where auto workers have either walked off the job. Today at Warren Truck Plant, I think it was 17 people from the paint shop just walked out over the virus, and I think it was end of last week at the Windsor plant across the river from us that the entire plant refused to show up for work. But we're also seeing some good things happen. Here, Centerline Schools sent out a post on Facebook that they would be preparing breakfast and preparing lunches like they normally do for students, and then they're loading them up into buses, and at specific times they're delivering them, and students can come to the bus stop and pick up meals. Mm-hmm. So,
and hope they weren't prepared by somebody who has the coronavirus.
We are way late. We're already over 20 minutes. I want to get the rest of the comments in. Gary, what's up, man?
Real quick, I just wanted to hammer on this Champaign, Illinois thing just because it's my home state. They passed the law that you can't buy gasoline in a container. So if you have a generator, mower, whatever, and alcohol, you can't buy alcohol, you can't buy firearms and ammunition. You can't buy it. regardless of if the stores are sold out or not. This is wrong. It's way wrong. Rob?
And that brings my point right to the fore. Thank you, Gary. I hope politicians don't make the situation worse. It's easy for them to do so. See, I did something. Yeah, you made it worse. Stop that. In my area down here, I'm part of the oil belt. Low gas prices might be a blessing for the economy.
It's going to do great things for the trucking industry, I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We ready to go on?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get to gun quotes. See here, Susan, you want to? It looks like there's two of them. You want to take them?
I don't know. Do I sound like you, Jeff? What the heck? Don't think of it as gun control. Think of it as victim disarmament. If we make enough laws, we can all be criminals. Jeff Snyder. This one I like. The unarmed man who hoards toilet paper is shopping for the thugs who buy ammunition. Rob Morris.
All right. Hang on, everybody. We're going to step aside to break. We'll be right back with our DGU segment right after this.
Firearm Safety Institute is one of Northwest Illinois' premier firearm training companies. They provide superior firearm training to all levels of shooters. Gary Doherty has been a trainer and concealed weapons permit holder for many years. While living in Nevada, he carried legally and has the experience to train you to do the same. Firearms Safety Institute offers a wide range of courses designed to meet the personal needs of both seasoned shooters and those that are new to the world of firearms. If you are looking to apply for the Illinois Concealed Carry License, Firearms Safety Institute can provide you with the professional training that meets the state's requirements. Gary accommodates classes of all sizes and can provide individualized instruction if that is your personal preference. He's happy to work with you and your friends to arrange private classes and will come to your location and work around your schedule. If you would like to get your Illinois CCW or increase your firearm knowledge or skills, go to firearmsafetyinstitute.com to start the conversation. Mention the Polite Society podcast and receive a 10% discount on your training. Remember, that's firearmsafetyinstitute.com. Get your Illinois CCW today.
And welcome back to the Polite Society podcast powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We're going to go ahead and go on to our DGU segment. And to start things off, these discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The defensive gun use segment is intended as information, not training, and as always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliations, although they should be. Susan, first one's out of Fort Wayne, right?
Yes. You're walking across the Walmart parking lot at 10:30 on a Saturday morning. You hear a man yell. At first, you think he was struck by a car in the parking lot. But then the driver gets out of the car and starts beating the pedestrian with a baseball bat. The attacker is wearing a mask over his face, and he continues to hit the victim on the ground with the bat. You have your Indiana carry permit. You're armed. You shout for the attacker to stop as you draw your firearm. The attacker stops beating the victim, looks at you, and runs for his car. You let him go. You holster your firearm and call 911. You try to help the victim. EMTs take the victim to the hospital where he is treated for life-threatening injuries. Police chase the attacker across 2 counties before he is stopped. You give a statement to the police. The police said the attacker didn't know the victim.
I'm going to jump in first on this one, and what I'm going to say is it is very dangerous to get involved in other people's situations. You absolutely must know who is the attacker, who's the aggressor, and who is the victim. But however, I think in this case, with one person beating another person with a baseball bat, I think it's pretty obvious who the bad guy is.
That's called a clue.
Yeah.
What do you think, man?
Well, criminals aren't very smart. But not.
You're breaking up.
So I think it was
Try it
caught.
again, man. You're breaking up.
I said criminals are not very smart, but at least this one was smart enough.
Dan, we lost you again.
So you got to give that to him. All right. Now.
Okay. What's interesting is that our defender slowly escalated the use of force. Hey, I'm here. Hey, stop that. I've got a gun pointed at you. And then the attacker went, whoops, not what I have planned, and left. So could the defender have shot immediately? You know, talking about jumping into a situation you may not understand. His verbal commands, stop or I'll shoot, save the day. That's usual. That's not unusual. Who's next?
I don't see anybody in show notes. So, Susan, let's go ahead and go off to our next one. I don't see Amanda on the call right now. So,
You're done eating, and you walk across the parking lot to get on your motorcycle and leave. 4 men walk up to you, an adult and 3 teenagers. They tell you to hand over the keys to your bike, your wallet, and your phone. You're armed. You move your jacket out of the way and put your hand on your gun. Your attackers run away. You take out your phone, dial 911 and stay at the scene. You give a report to the police when they arrive. Later, the police ask you to look at 4 suspects, where you identify your 4 robbers. Tag, no shots fired.
Paul, I have a question for you. You've ridden. You're in the Dakotas now. How warm is it in Akron when you're riding a bike this time of year?
you know what? This time of year, it can vary wildly. Here in Sioux Falls, the weekend before last, it was 70 degrees.
Wow.
Yesterday, it was 38. Was that right, Susan?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, it can vary wildly.
But I'm thinking even, okay, at 70, now we're just talking about leathers. But I'm thinking if it's, the temperatures I expect, you're in a snowsuit, which means getting to your gun probably takes some subterfuge. Okay, guys, let me get it for you. And now you've got a couple zippers to manage. And now, on the other hand, they're expecting a wallet and they see a barrel.
There is that. Gary, what do you think, man?
Trying it again. We had 60s over the weekend, and then we just had snow yesterday. So there's a wet weather for you.
That's spring.
Welcome to the Midwest,
man. All right. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. Susan, are you going to read that, or are we going to go back to having the staff read?
I can read it. That's fine.
Okay, go ahead.
It's after midnight on a Monday morning. You're with a coworker after work. You sit in her car talking as the car warms up. 2 young men come up to her window and point a gun at both of you. They say to hand over your money and phones. You say, "My wallet's in my car." You open the door, step to your car, and grab your firearm. You shoot your armed attacker until he drops his gun. Both of your attackers run from the parking lot. You stay with your friend and call the police. You both give a report. The police find your wounded attacker nearby, and EMTs take him to the hospital. Your attackers are charged with felony robbery, and each one is held on a $25,000 cash bail.
I just want to comment that there is at least one presidential candidate, Bernie, who would want to do away with cash bail. So a felony attacker like this would just be let off on his own recognizance. And I'm just like, great. Rob?
That's what we saw in New York recently.
Yeah.
I think our defender was clever, but not as smart as putting on your gun when you put on your pants. He was lucky. It worked, but let's not confuse good with smart. Gary, what do you think?
What was he just using that as a distraction, or does it say that he actually had his gun in his car?
When I read the news article, it said he got his gun from his car.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think it said retrieved, but.
Oh, okay. All right. I missed the article. My question is, why aren't more criminals that... I mean, we talk about this in Mag 40, that if you are involved in a felony and someone dies, you are charged with felony murder. And it doesn't... A lot of our stories that are similar to this, that doesn't seem to happen. Is that different state by state, or what's the deal? Anyone can help me on that.
I think it
well,
would
in
be
this
a
case,
state
the victim didn't, the attacker didn't die.
That's true. Yeah,
but you and I are thinking, why wasn't the other attacker charged with attempted murder?
Right.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that is a state by state law. Each state handles it differently. We had, and I noticed, we're all in parking lots. All three of them are in parking lots, if I'm reading right. So that's the theme of the week. And we recently had a woman who was in a parking lot right at the Kroger where we do our grocery shopping, and she was there pick up her daughter who's working in a store there overnight, and the report came across that she had been murdered sitting there in the parking lot. It's one of those things she needed to be aware of what was going on around her, and that it's one of those things that you hate to see. Yeah. And we need to give Rob credit for the DGUs this week. I went to post them. I had them written up, went to post them, and saw they were already there. So I've got to jump for next week's show notes. I'll just move. I've already copied what I had. So.
All right. Well, we do need to run away to break. We're flirting very closely to a 1 hour, going past our 1 hour 30-minute mark that I like to keep these to. So we are going to step aside to our final break. When we come back, we're going to wrap the show up with blog posts, and we'll be right back right after this.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. JPFO.org.
Welcome back to the final segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. At this point, normally we beg for email. I'm not going to beg, and I'm going to be just very truthful with you. I haven't even checked show email this week. With our son's wedding over the weekend, I was a little busy, and today, getting ready to leave tomorrow, I didn't have a chance to check it before we went live. If you do want to email us at onair@politicsandguns.com. I do promise I will check them and will answer you on the air at some point. But what I'd really prefer you do is join us live on Facebook, and we will comment as we're on the air, and we'll answer your comments live. Gerald did post some comments in. We were in our DGUs. I just didn't look at them at the time. But I do want to bring up one here real quick. He mentioned while we were talking about that first DGU where the person was being assaulted with a bat, he was mentioning that the mask was a great clue who the bad guy was. So, All right, let's go ahead and get off to blog posts. Rob, what's been going on over at Slowfax, man?
We know how to stop mass public violence. We had Joe Eaton on it to talk about it with several segments. But too often, as a body politic, we choose not to do what we know how to do. Let's face it, government has trouble filling a pothole. Sometimes it needs our help to do the right thing. I talked about that in my article titled, "Can Government Officials Be Trusted with Our Children's Lives?" My articles are up at Clash Daily, at Ammoland, and at my blog, slowfax.wordpress.com. John, tell us about the latest at your blog, No Lawyers, Only Guns and Money.
We now live in an era of government-declared states of emergency thanks to the coronavirus. Formerly in North Carolina, any declared state of emergency meant you could not carry a firearm outside your own home, even if you had a concealed handgun permit. Depending on the declaration, it could also have banned the sale of firearms and alcoholic beverages, like Champaign, Illinois. If there was ever a time when you need to be able to exercise your Second Amendment rights, it is during times of emergency. Thanks to the efforts of the Second Amendment Foundation, Grassroots North Carolina, and attorney Alan Gura, the emergency powers gun ban was found unconstitutional in 2012 in the case of Bateman versus Purdue. This was the first case to use the win in McDonald versus Chicago to challenge a law using the Second and 14th Amendments. In fact, Bateman was filed the very same day as that win. And this blog post has now had over 3,100 views. Gary?
So I'm curious, do you think there's a case in the Springfield story, or what's going to happen?
I mean, somebody could bring suit. It was brought in North Carolina, I think, for obvious reasons, because a state of emergency declared in North Carolina due to snow or a hurricane or whatever, took away your rights to carry a gun outside the home. The judge found for the plaintiffs using strict scrutiny. He said it violated the Second Amendment. Unfortunately, the state actually did not appeal the case, so it didn't go forward to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals nor the Supreme Court. Later that year, the North Carolina General Assembly actually changed the law, got rid of it, and during periods of emergency, you're allowed to protect yourself.
Well, that was unexpected. I did not expect that to fire off so quickly, but we are at the end of the show. I do want to thank our guest, Joe Eaton, for joining us today. So for Amy, Tracy, Bell, Kat, Dana, Gary, John, Rachel, Susan, Amanda, Monty, and Rob.
Until next time,
stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.